become legends. Sins that go against our skin become blessings. The movement is a rhythm to us. Freedom is like religion to us. Justice is juxtaposition in us. Justice for all just ain't specific enough. One son died, his spirit is revisiting us. True and living in us. Resistance is us. That's why Rosa sat on the bus. That's why we walk through Ferguson with our hands up. When it go down, we woman and man up. They say stay down, and we stand up. Shots, we on the ground, the camera panned up. King pointed to the mountaintop, and we ran up.
One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours, it will be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure, we will be sure. Oh, glory, glory, glory. Now the war is not over, victory isn't won, but we'll fight on to the finish, and then when it's all done, we'll cry glory, oh glory, oh. We'll cry glory, oh glory, oh.
Selma is now for every man, woman, and child. Even Jesus got his crown in front of a crowd. They march with the torch, we gon' run with it now. Never look back, we done gone hundreds of miles. From dark roads, heroes, to become a hero. Facing the League of Justice, his power was the people. Enemy is lethal, a king became regal. Saw the face of Jim Crow under a bald ego. The biggest weapon is to stay peaceful. We sing, our music is the cuts that we bleed through. Somewhere in the dream we had an epiphany. Now we right the wrongs in history. No one can win a war individually. It take the wisdom of the elders and young people's energy. Welcome to the story we call victory. The coming of the Lord, my eyes have seen the glory.
One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours, it will be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure, we will be sure. Oh, glory, oh. Wake up, everybody, no more sleeping in bed. No more backward thinking, time for thinking ahead. The world has changed so very much from what it used to be. There is so much hatred, war and poverty. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Wake up all the teachers, time to teach a new way. Maybe then they'll listen to what you have to say. 'Cause they're the ones who's coming up and the
change again, just you and me. Wake up all the doctors, make the old people well. They're the ones who suffer and who catch all the hail. They don't have so very long before their judgment day. So won't you make them happy before they pass away? Oh yeah.
Wake up all the builders, time to build a new land. I know we can do it if we all lend a hand. The only thing we have to do is put it in our minds. Surely things will work out, 'cause they do every time. Yeah,
The world won't get no better if we just let it be. Oh, the world won't get no better. We gotta change it, yeah, just you and me. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's the God hour, the morning I wake up. Just for the breath of life, I thank my maker. My mind say I come from hustlers and shakers. My mind building on skyscrapers and acres. He said take us back to where we belong. I try to write a song as sweet as the Psalms. Though I'm the type to bear arms and wear my heart on my sleeve. Even when I fail in God, I believe. Read the days and weave through the maze. And the seas are so amazing. Feed them and raise them. Seasons are aging. Earthquakes, wars and rumors. I want us to get by, but we more than consumers. We more than shooters, more than looters. Created in this image so God lived through us. And even in this generation, living through computers. Only love, love, love can reboot us. Come on.
Wake up, everybody, no more sleeping in bed.
Oh, wake up everybody, yeah.
'Cause I need a little help. Can't do it alone. Oh, I need a little help. Come on, come on, come on, come on. I need a little help, y'all. Can't do it alone. Oh, I need a little help, y'all. Can't do it alone.
Wake up everybody, wake up everybody, wake up everybody.
Try Jesus, not me. 'Cause I throw hands. Try Jesus, please don't try me. Because I fight. I know what he said about getting slapped. But if you touch me or mine, we gon' have to scrap. So, try Jesus, please don't try me. Because I fight. I have no problem laying these hands. Try Jesus, don't try me. 'Cause I throw hands. Try Jesus, please don't try me. Because I fight. Oh, you said, turn the other cheek. Oh, but that's one part of the Bible that just don't sit right with me. So try Jesus, please don't try me. 'Cause I fight. I have no problem.
I have the pleasure to present to you Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. Five score years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. This nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today a dream that one day down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is a faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, "My country, tears of thee." Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. And so let freedom ring. From the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire, let freedom ring. From the mighty mountains of New York, let freedom ring. From the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania, let freedom ring. From the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado, let freedom ring. From the curvaceous slopes of California. Not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring. And when this happens, when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
Tough act to follow that speech. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt Scogan, and I have the honor and joy of serving as president of Hope College. And on behalf of all of us at Hope, it's my honor to welcome you to our annual Civil Rights Lecture. It's great to have you here. Thank you for braving the crazy blizzard and for being here. It really is an honor. We've been doing this lecture on Martin Luther King Day at Hope for many years, and it's really been beautiful over the last few years to see this day evolve to become a day that really is now a campus-wide collaboration between so many different departments and offices on campus, as well as many community partners. And so it's really beautiful to see that. That was not true even just a few years ago. This year is special for a number of reasons, and not just because of the epic blizzard outside. This year, of course, is the 60th anniversary of that speech, the I Have a Dream speech. And that speech, of course, is one of the, in my view, one of the greatest examples of hope in action that we've seen. Of course, at Hope College, we believe in hope, the virtue, the ideal. And we at Hope define hope as a confident and joyful expectation that something good is going to happen. And for us, practically speaking, what that means is it means that questions have answers and problems are solvable. And at the end of the day, it means that we believe anything is possible because we serve a God ultimately who says that with me anything is possible. And of course, King believed that as well, and that's where he got his hope. In one of his writings, actually not long before he passed away, King said, "We can always accept our finite disappointments, but we must never lose our infinite hope." And I think that that speech is a great example of this infinite hope that we try to embody here at Hope College. Another reason that this year is special is that this year, 2024, marks the 40th anniversary of the Office of Center for Diversity and Inclusion here at Hope College. The predecessor to that office was started in 1984. And it really is exciting to be celebrating that 40-year milestone over the course of this calendar year. One of the things that we talk about often, and in fact we've talked about it in chapel this year, is the whole idea that when God acts, he rarely acts alone. Often God won't act unless he can find a partner. In other words, he won't act unless he can find an instrument to use. So, for example, God needed a leader of the civil rights movement, and so he used Martin Luther King to be that leader. And I believe that in a similar way, I believe that God is choosing Hope College to be a place that models what Dr. King fought for, a place that models belonging for everybody. For 40 years, CDI and its predecessor offices have been working toward that end. And so it really is an honor to be celebrating that 40-year milestone this year. This afternoon, we get a chance to hear from a man who's been part of the journey here at Hope College for 30 of those 40 years. Dr. John Yelding is a legend, and he's not just a legend, but he's also someone who is in my personal Hall of Fame, and so I can't wait to hear from him this afternoon. But before we do that, it's my honor to turn it over to our Vice President for Culture and Inclusive Excellence, Dr. Sonia Trent Brown.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, President Scogan, for those meaningful and hope-filled words. I am Dr. Sonia Trent Brown. I am a 5 foot 10 inches tall African-American woman with brown hair. I am wearing glasses. I'm wearing black pants and a long black, brown, and white shirt jacket, or a shacket. I am standing at a podium located in the center of an elevated stage. Students, families, staff, faculty, alumni, community members, and friends of Hope College. It is my great pleasure to welcome you here to the beautiful Dimnent Chapel on Hope's campus this afternoon for the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Civil Rights Lecture. Since 2005, I have been blessed to work here at Hope in community with colleagues who are student-centered experts in their fields. They are passionate about teaching and learning. They are collaborative scholars and practitioners and members of a vibrant faith community. We will have the honor this afternoon of hearing from one such member of the Hope College community, our very own John Yelding, who has been a beacon of wisdom and a mentor to many, myself included. John Yelding, Professor Emeritus, as President Scogan mentioned, is a legend. He has been an enduring pillar of sagacity at Hope College since 1994. His time at Hope has spanned decades. It is only fitting then that he should be the speaker sought for this day. To kick off this year celebrating the 40th anniversary of the Hope College Center for Diversity and Inclusion. John Yelding has seen the center grow and change through its many manifestations since first established in 1984 with our dear Alfredo Gonzalez. The Center for Diversity and Inclusion, along with campus and community partners, has been sponsoring the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Civil Rights Lecture for years, commemorating the Reverend Dr. King's birthday, remembering his work, honoring his legacy, and responding to his call to action, to working together to create the beloved community, because the work is yet ongoing. And it continues for each of us. In fact, the work starts with each of us. Every year, the Martin Luther King Jr. Center for Nonviolent Social Change establishes a theme for the King holiday observance. The theme for 2024 is, "It Starts With Me," shifting the cultural climate through the study and practice of Kingian nonviolence. In the words of Dr. King, nonviolence is the answer to the crucial political and moral questions of our time. The need for man to overcome oppression and violence without resorting to violence and oppression. Man must evolve for all human conflict, a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation. The foundation of such a method is love. Faith, hope, and love abide, these three, but the greatest of these is love. For Dr. King, nonviolence was a love-centered way of thinking, speaking, engaging, and acting that leads to personal, cultural, and societal transformation. To help folks learn more about Kingian nonviolent approaches, the King Center has invested in providing an online masterclass called Nonviolence 365, which has been called a powerful, practical approach to dealing with conflict and dismantling injustice. Dr. King believed that nonviolence could help us to create the beloved community, a society built on global cooperation and equity. He believed that the beloved community wasn't some unattainable utopia, but rather an achievable reality for us all, if we work together. Together, we are empowered to make things happen. This is the invitation. And so today we welcome you to this space to commemorate, to celebrate, to remember, and to embrace the call to action that speaks to you this day, or that God places on your heart. Friends, you are welcome. And before I take my leave, I have the opportunity to introduce Crystal Wright. And she is going to lead us in singing Lift Every Voice and Sing. And so as Crystal comes, Lift Every Voice and Sing is often referred to as the National Black Anthem. It's a hymn written as a poem by NAACP leader James Weldon Johnson in 1900. His brother, John Rosamond Johnson, composed the music to accompany the lyrics. And in the first performance, a choir of 500 school children at the segregated Stanton School, where James Weldon Johnson was principal at the time, first performed the song in public. And this was in Jacksonville, Florida, and it was on the occasion of celebrating President Abraham Lincoln's birthday. And so a choir of 500 school children, I cannot think of anyone more fitting than Holland's own Crystal Wright, who is an educator who values excellence and equity in education, and who has dedicated years of investing in our youth and in our schools. And so we welcome Crystal to lead us at this time.
Will you stand and join me as the words will be up on the screen? Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the roaring sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on our way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in the path
we pray, lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee, shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand true to our God, true to our native land, facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
Hello, everyone. My name is Confiance Mbuyu. I am a junior and an education major here at Hope College. I also serve as vice president for both Black Student Union and the Pan-African Student Association. It is my pleasure to introduce you all to our MLK Civil Rights speaker, Professor Emeritus John Yelding. John Yelding joined the Hope faculty in 1994 after serving as a teacher and administrator in K-12 education for 25 years. His teaching specializations are in secondary education, diversity, rural education, and urban education. In 2013, he helped establish the Hope Comes to Watts May Term, which he continues to co-direct with his colleagues in the education department. In addition to teaching in the education department, he has been part of the team teaching the first-year seminar for students participating in the Phelps Scholars Program and directed the American Ethnic Studies minor and Encounter with Cultures program. Among other involvements at the college, he has also served on the advisory boards of the Phelps Scholars Program and the Hope College Trio Upper Bound program for area high school students and led sessions during the Hope College's Critical Issues Symposium and Winter Happening events. John Yelding is also a past member of the West Ottawa Public Schools Board of Education, which he also served as president. In 2003, he received a Michigan Campus Compact Faculty Staff Community Service Learning Award. He received the Hope College's Provost Award for service to the academic program in 2009. The Vanderbush Weller Development Fund Award for strong, positive impact on students in 2011. And the Moto Ichiro Global Courage Award in 2016. He has also been recognized with several awards presented by student organizations on the Hope College campus. Prior to joining the Hope faculty, Dr. Yelding held teaching positions in Covert and South Haven, was a middle school and junior high school principal in Coloma, was a teacher and administrator in the Van Buren County Migrant Program for 16 summers, was a principal of Safe Haven High School and served as interim superintendent of the South Haven Public Schools. He earned his bachelor's degree from Michigan State University in 1969, a master's degree in educational leadership from Western Michigan University in 1981, and has completed extensive studies in education leadership, diversity education, and communication at Western Michigan University. His current work and activities include teaching Encounter with Cultures, co-directing the Hope Comes to Watts program, mentoring Holland High School students in the education department's early college program, serving on scholarship selection and hiring committees, and serving on the Watts Learning Center Board of Directors. So ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, please put your hands together and help me welcome to the stage the legend, the one and only, Professor John Yelding. Come on.
Thank you, Confiance. I think right now, I kind of know what Brian Morehouse felt like on Saturday with his 700th win, you know? What's left to do? In preparing for this, yes, I spent some time. I think perhaps what you'll notice the most is that I believe I am dressed exactly like my picture, okay? I put a lot of time and effort into that, okay? And I spent a little bit of time working on what I would say too, okay? Good afternoon, welcome, and thank all of you who have taken the time to come out on this cold Michigan winter afternoon to hear the message I've come to share with you. I want to give special thanks to the Hope College Office of Diversity and Inclusion and its staff for their kindness in extending an invitation for me to speak today. And especially to Paulina, Polly to me, Korn, who has been wonderful to work with in planning today's activities. I also want to be clear that in terms of what I'm going to say today, I do not stand before you speaking for Hope College. Neither do I stand before you speaking on behalf of the Hope College Education Department or the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. While I'm proud to have the privilege to often represent Hope College and the Education Department and the Office of Diversity and Inclusion and the Admissions Office, the thoughts that I have to share with you today are my thoughts, and I accept full responsibility and accountability for everything I say to you today. You're not getting a canned lecture that I've given a dozen times before, or for that matter, even once before. What you will hear, for better or worse, has been carefully conceived and developed for the express purpose of delivering the message I want to share with you today. If you've seen the title of today's lecture, you already know that I'm not going to deliver a traditional Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. memorial lecture. I'm not going to tell you about his I Have a Dream speech, which works out well because we got to see it anyway. I'm not going to tell you about his critical role as the leader of the Montgomery bus boycott. I'm not even going to tell you about his famous letter from Birmingham jail, in which he pointedly shared his disappointment in his fellow white clergymen as they refused to step forward in support of his leadership of the fight to end segregation. And I'm not going to go through a litany of his famous quotes. You should already know these things. If you don't, you've got some work to do. In the tradition of all good ministers, I have three major issues I will speak to you about today. You've heard that before, right? First, because this day is dedicated to the memory of Dr. King, I will open my remarks with some thoughts about him and ponder what he might be thinking about if he were still with us today. Second, I will share some observations and concerns about where our nation is right now in dealing with the issue of civil rights in American society. Finally, I will share with you in a celebratory spirit, some reflections on the significance of the 40th anniversary of the Hope College Office of Diversity and Inclusion, and how we institutionally got to where we are today with that office. In all fairness, I should tell you that in sharing my thoughts with you, if I fail to make pretty much everyone here uncomfortable at some point in the first 60 to 65% of my remarks, I will likely feel that I have failed in delivering the message I hope to deliver to you. I do not view this as a kumbaya moment. I view it as a golden opportunity to do a reality check with you on how we're doing and a chance to share why, despite our challenges, we still have many reasons to be hopeful. So let's get started. It would make no sense at all to have a celebration of the legacy of the Reverend Dr. King without saying something about Dr. King and those who followed him. Dr. King stood uniquely at the apex of the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s. I certainly hope I don't have to tell you about his commitment to nonviolence, peaceful protest, and civil disobedience as strategies to secure the rights for which he and his followers so diligently and sacrificially worked for not only African Americans, but for all Americans. I don't stand before you today to share stories of my personal experiences with Dr. King. I'm not even sure I have even been blessed to experience a true passing glimpse of him. I'm not Carolyn McKinstry, the 14-year-old girl who took the 1963 call at the 16th Street Baptist Church 3 minutes before a Ku Klux Klan bomb exploded, killing 4 innocent young girls who were simply there attending Sunday school. I'm not Cheyenne Webb Kreisberg, who Dr. King labeled his smallest freedom fighter at the age of 8 years old as she joined the movement at the Brown Church in Selma, Alabama. Fortunately, in recent years, we at Hope and the greater surrounding community have been blessed with the opportunity to hear the stories of both of those incredible women right here in this chapel. And I most certainly do not appear before you this afternoon as one who dares to even stand in the shadow of the late John Lewis, who was a key leader in the Freedom Rider movement and later went on to become a long-serving and powerful congressman as a member of the U.S. House of Representatives. The best I can honestly say about my role in the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s is that I was keenly aware of what the movement was about and why it was necessary. I was an active participant in protest marches while a student at Michigan State University from 1965 to 1969, and I was a co-founder of a group in my home community called Blacks United that worked for equal treatment, equitable opportunities in the job market, and better education for African Americans, Latinos, and economically disadvantaged people in our community. I feel very blessed to also say that while leading the June term course and trip on the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s, my students and I, along with my dear friend and our previous Director of Diversity and Inclusion, Vanessa Green, were able to attend a Father's Day service at the 16th Street Baptist Church and to spend about 3 hours having dinner with Carolyn McKinstry. I can honestly say it was for all of us a life-changing experience. Nonetheless, I'm sure none of these humble activities magically qualify me to hold the honor of speaking to you today. But I'm here, and you're here, so I'll keep going and hope that there will be at least one person here today who hears what I have to say and finds it to be challenging enough, encouraging enough, and valuable enough to step forward, to let their voice be heard, and in their own way make a difference in the lives of the many others, though not physically voiceless, may as well be simply because no one is willing to listen to them. Now, for those who get antsy, let me tell you, we're going to be here for a little while, okay? Nothing like my early church experiences growing up, where the pastor would be about 2.5 hours into the sermon and he would start talking about, if I only had some time, okay? You're safe from that. Don't worry about it. And let's make one more thing clear. On January 15th of every year, most Americans profess to one degree or another their great love and admiration for Dr. King. If you were born after his assassination in 1968, you might genuinely believe that he was almost universally loved by all Americans, regardless of race, culture, creed, or geography. If that is what you've been told, as someone who lived through the hate and vitriol of the 1950s and 1960s, let me set the record straight. He was not universally loved in the United States. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover labeled him a communist, spied on him, and even attempted to blackmail him to commit suicide. In reality, many Americans feared and hated Dr. King because they saw him as representing change that they were not ready for, or that was going to cost them the loss of some level of perceived superiority and privilege. While that likely shocks no one who has the slightest inkling of our history in the South, please do not be confused and think that it was significantly different in most areas in the North, the East, the Midwest, or the West. It wasn't. No, I am not confusing the response of many in the American public to Dr. King with their response to Malcolm X. I'm telling you the truth about how many Americans responded to Dr. King. I lived through that period of time. I will never forget seeing on the nightly news pictures and videos of dogs being set loose to attack peaceful protesters. The use of fire hoses on people that were so powerful that they could literally remove skin from arms or legs. Or the sickening beatings repeatedly administered by, ironically, law enforcement authorities to marchers and protesters. It's also very important to note that while we have too often been left with the impression that the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s was the first effort of African Americans to secure their rights as citizens, that is, of course, not true. From the incalculable suicides of slaves during their journey to America and the Caribbean, to the heroic efforts of Harriet Tubman, Booker T. Washington, W.E.B. Du Bois, and many others along the way, the search for freedom and equality has been a long and arduous journey. As important as the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s was, we must remember that at that time, it was really a culmination of civil rights efforts, not a beginning, and certainly not an end. Indeed, it facilitated the development of multiple new civil rights initiatives by other groups, including the modern-day women's rights movement, the LGBTQ movement, the Native American rights movement, and the Chicano movement, just to name some of the major ones coming out of that era. So I've clearly established that I never did anything with or for Dr. King to make me famous, and I don't stand in front of you as any kind of hero of that movement. That leaves me in the situation of thinking about what can I say about Dr. King that will provide those here today with a message they can take with them as they leave and return to their everyday world. Upon reflection, I repeatedly found myself coming back to one question that wouldn't leave my mind as I thought about Dr. King. That question if Dr. King were still with us today, what would he think about the mess we've created since the immeasurable sacrifices he and his followers made? That question led me to think about a number of things that I have to believe Dr. King would find puzzling about the attitudes and beliefs that are all too prevalent in our society today about race, ethnicity, gender, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, those with special needs, and those who holding religious beliefs from faiths other than Christianity. I found myself wondering how hard he would find it to believe that almost 59 years after the passage of the Voting Rights Act in 1965, we could possibly again be living in an era where all across the nation there are politicians at the state, national, and local levels doing everything they can to deny certain groups of citizens the right to vote because of their race or ethnicity. I found myself wondering if he would really imagine that after all this time, on average, women still only make 82% of the money men make for doing the same job. I find myself wondering how he wouldn't stand in disbelief when confronted with the fact that after all this time, we have not only failed to close the economic gap between those in our society who are most wealthy and those who have the least, and how profoundly shocked he would surely be to learn that the gap between those who have much and those who have little only continues to grow. I found myself wondering what Dr. King would say about the too many churches that ban those of different sexual orientations from the right to simply attend a worship service. I found myself wondering what he would think about our treatment of those in our population of special needs, be they associated with education, mental health, or any of the other myriad of needs experienced by those with special needs in our society today. I found myself wondering what he would say about those who are condemned in our nation for simply wanting to practice their own faith traditions in the United States. Ironically, something that is consistently cited as a key reason our colonies broke free from the rule of England to sink. But my wondering did not stop there. I found myself also wondering what he would say about the huge number of homeless people living largely invisible to us in one of the wealthiest and most powerful nations in the world. I found myself wondering what he would say about the incredible number of people across age groups, both young and old, who are dying from fentanyl, other kinds of drug overdoses, and suicide every day. I found myself wondering how he could ever understand our own government using cages to house immigrant children caught up in a situation that our political leaders refuse to address primarily because they are too busy gaining political points and votes by holding on to the positions of their parties, and because of their fear of challenges in their primary campaigns, the loss of their appointed leadership positions, and or their donations and PAC support for election and re-election campaigns. And finally, I found myself wondering how Dr. King could ever understand and accept that the United States has more people incarcerated than any other country in the world, and that in fact every single U.S. state incarcerates more people per capita than virtually any independent democracy on earth. I want to pause here for a moment, and I don't know if Dr. Ray is with us today, but if he is, I'd like to ask him to stand. And he's our former provost and founder and leader of Hope College's program designed to offer a second chance for those incarcerated. I'd like him to please stand, and even if he's not here, would you please join me in thanking him and recognizing him for his work with incarcerated people. Thank you. So, what do you think Dr. King would think about these issues that I've raised? What do you think about them? What are you willing to do to address them? For many of you in this chapel today, these may seem like the problems of other people that don't and won't touch your daily life. But as Dr. King stated so clearly, and I quote, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny." Before I begin to speak to the connection of Dr. King to my ponderings about what he might think, let me briefly make clear to you some fundamental things about my beliefs about civil rights. I believe that civil rights are first and foremost human rights. They are the rights that are so fundamental to the meaning of what we claim to morally stand for that they have been codified into law to assure there is no misunderstanding of the rights to which every American citizen is entitled. They are the rights that every major world religion calls upon us to honor on behalf of every human being. Yes, there's no question that these rights vary somewhat from nation to nation, and even within nations, from society to society, and from time to time. In actual practice, that has clearly been the case in our own society, and frankly, it continues to be so today. But aren't those rights still at the very core of who we say we aspire to be? Let us imagine that the issues I have raised in Dr. King's hypothesized questions and concerns are in fact ones that would puzzle him and indeed likely befuddle him after his many years of work and sacrifice. What would we have to honestly and factually explain to him to help him understand how we have gotten to where we are today as a society? Let's begin by placing the issue of voter rights in context. In recent years, most of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 has been gutted by our state and national governments. States that had horrible track records of voting discrimination and had been monitored for decades to ensure compliance with the law were set free to basically do as they pleased with their voting rights laws, including laws governing citizens' ability to participate in federal elections. Not only have we failed to enhance voting opportunities for many of the most underrepresented portions of our society, but we have also been strategic in the precise geographic areas in which legislatures are most commonly restricting voting rights and equal representation. You won't have to look far to confirm this. And in many cases, it's not just where we so quickly tend to assume it's occurring. If you don't believe me, go check on the status of the court-decided legality of the most recently established congressional districts in the state of Michigan, or Pennsylvania, Georgia, Alabama, Florida. It goes on and on. The list of such cases of gerrymandering goes on and on, even as we approach our next congressional and presidential elections. In repeated cases, we have consciously and with intent created an absolute mess of state and national representation districts, all in pursuit of power and control. And let's be clear, this is not a good party, bad party issue. Both of our major political parties have been guilty of this throughout much of our history, yet we have done little or nothing to meaningfully fix it. And what about the issue of the economic gaps between men and women in our society, and the gap between our most wealthy and poorest members of our society? According to the U.S. Census Bureau, in 2022, Americans at the 90th percentile of income had 12.63 times the income of those at the 10th percentile. The average estimated gap between the pay of CEOs in the United States compared to the pay of the workers at their companies has grown from a ratio of 20 to 1 in 1965 to a range between 272 to 1 and 344 to 1 in 2022. And as noted earlier, on average, women still make only 82% of what men make when compared to men doing the same work. And that's in spite of the fact that they now earn more bachelor's and doctor's degrees than men. What should we tell Dr. King about the still too many churches who have closed their doors to the simple act of allowing those with different sexual orientations and or identities to attend worship services, let alone serve in any capacity of leadership? It seems clear that many in our society running around proudly displaying their "What would Jesus do" bracelets, necklaces, and pins do so with a willful misunderstanding of what Jesus would indeed be likely to do. As a man of deep and committed faith, that would surely be a very difficult kind of modeling of the teachings of Jesus for Dr. King to understand, let alone accept. Dr. King was all too familiar with the willingness of those who opposed his efforts to obtain equal rights for all and those who, driven by racism and irrational fear, set off bombs and started fires at churches. How do you think we should try to explain to him that we now, on a regular basis, have people who enter Jewish synagogues, Islamic mosques, and African American churches for the express purpose of bombing them, setting them on fire, or to conduct mass murders of those there to worship, for no other reason than hating their choice of faith, the language in which they worship, or the color of their skin? How do you think we should try to explain to Dr. King that we have turned many of our people who are most in need of mental health support out onto the streets, denying them the kind of support they need to live the kind of life God intended for them, denying them the opportunity to share the beautiful gifts they possess, and being satisfied to believe that we won't have to put up with them for long because they will soon break the law and find themselves incarcerated? How should we try to explain to Dr. King that we have become a society that thinks it's okay to lose more than 72 lives per day to gun suicide in our country? I remind you, I'm not talking about all suicides per day. I'm only talking about the ones committed with guns. I'm not talking about the children's lives lost to guns through accidents or domestic or criminal violence. Sadly, it seems we must tell Dr. King that as a society, we have made it abundantly clear which of our priorities is most important. And how do we explain to Dr. King that we have reached a point where we are willing to accept massive numbers of deaths caused by drug abuse and misuse? According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 107,081 people died from drug overdoses in the United States in 2022. How do we think we could ever explain to Dr. King that we separate children from their parents and literally put them in cages to protect them in situations that they had little or nothing to do with creating? How do we explain the governors of some of our biggest states finding it humorous to place innocent, struggling immigrants on buses to nowhere and utilize them as human pawns in their sick and petty games? How do we, all the ancestors of immigrants ourselves, condemn as the enemy those who desperately seek an opportunity to start a new life in a place that offers the potential of economic opportunity, safety, and a new future for their children, labeling them as criminals, rapists, and the scum and dregs of their nations, societies, and cultures? And finally, for the purpose of today's conversation, how do we explain that the most blessed society in the history of mankind incarcerates more people than any other society in the world and has the 6th highest incarceration rate per 100,000 people of any nation in the world? In fact, as noted, each of our states incarcerate more people than virtually any other major democratic country in the world. How many of those in our society, and indeed those who are sitting in this chapel right now, would have to honestly say, "There, but for the grace of God, go I"? I know I do. Does anyone else wonder how a nation as great and successful as ours, one that can drop a bomb down a smokestack in an enemy nation from hundreds and even thousands of miles away and bring peace to other countries halfway around the world, can't clean up its own cities and bring safety, security, and peace to them? If you know and really understand anything at all about Dr. King, you know that even if he were to somehow be able to, if we were to be able to somehow explain each of these issues I have raised, that I'm sure he would be deeply concerned about, he wouldn't be satisfied just to know and understand that they exist in our society. Yes, he was a gifted speaker who could stir the conscience and soul of our nation about its many legal and moral shortcomings. But he never stopped there. He was a man of action, a doer, not just a thinker or speaker. So that leads us to the question of what would he call on us to do to address the issues I believe he would surely raise in our society today. The issues I believe he would call us to do battle with are obviously complex and loaded with politics, but I'm certain he would call us to action to do God's work. I believe he would start by reminding us that problems get solved when we set aside our petty differences and commit ourselves to work toward achieving goals that serve a greater cause. I believe he would remind us that we can and will do more working together than we could ever do individually or by isolating ourselves in groups that serve only our own interest and focus on competition with one another rather than cooperation. I believe he would call us to the roots of our Christian faith and ask us in the most honest manner, what would Jesus do? I believe he would call us to unity and insist that we make a decision about whether we truly are who we say we are committed to being, or if we are only that kind of American when it's convenient and doesn't cost us anything. I believe he would demand that we either put up or shut up about the social issues too many have so designed and constructed to divide us at the expense of the many for the benefit of the few. I can literally see the tears streaming down his face as he looks at where we are today and wonders how, after all this time, can we still be arguing about the need for the very things for which he fought and gave his life? But as those tears burn on his face, I also know one thing above all else. Dr. King was not a quitter. He was a peaceful warrior, but he was indeed a warrior. The view he saw from the mountaintop that fateful night in the Memphis area before his death the next day has not disappeared from his vision. Yes, it has been delayed, but it can never be denied. He will not allow it to be denied, and we are committed to following his legacy. Who are committed to following his legacy will not let it be denied. Dr. King accurately assessed that he might not get to that promised land with us, but the journey must and will continue. And as I stand before you today, in the strongest way, echo that sentiment for myself. I'm deeply disappointed that we haven't come farther as a society, and indeed that there are far too many signs of our society taking major steps backwards in the areas of civil rights, social justice, and a fundamental respect for basic human dignity. If you think I'm wrong, please consider the rhetoric that is dominating our current campaign for presidential nominations and the attitudes, behaviors, and arrogance of our own current county commissioners. When we truly intend to let freedom ring, it doesn't ring out a song of policies and resolutions designed to take rights away from people. It doesn't infringe on the rights of women to protect their own health. And it doesn't fear the mere presence of the other amongst us. I have to honestly say there's very little likelihood that I will see Dr. King's promised land in my lifetime. But I do believe it will one day become a reality. And as long as I'm here, I'm going to do everything I can to move us forward toward that promised land. I've said a lot, but I'm not done yet. I've given you my honest assessment of where we are as a nation relative to the achievement of Dr. King's vision of the promised land. I have, I believe, clearly presented some of the challenges that I see that stand in the way of us reaching the promised land. But the story doesn't end there. We are also here to celebrate the history and accomplishments of Hope College's initiatives on diversity and successes of the Hope College Office of Diversity and Inclusion. And while there will always be challenges as we commit ourselves to moving forward, there is indeed much for us to celebrate today. International students have a relatively small but rich history in the legacy of Hope College. I suspect that by now many of you sitting here today have heard the story about how Dr. Philip Phelps in 1969 recruited 3 Japanese students to enroll at Hope College. He not only recruited them, but he and his wife, Mrs. Margaret Ann Phelps, invited them into their home to live and cared for them along with their own 3 young children. As Dr. Jacob Jack Nienhuis and Alfredo Gonzalez noted in their Strengthened by Our Diversity presentation on April 27, 2019, and I quote, and please hear this, "From Dr. Phelps and his family, we learned of the enduring value of diversity. We learned that what advances diversity and inclusion is not a conversation on the importance of diversity, but rather a personal relationship where the host and guest become one." It would then be almost 55 years later before Hope College would enroll its first American minority student. As Nienhuis and Gonzalez also note about early minority graduates, Hope's first Native American graduate was James Collins Otepobi, a Comanche Indian from Lawton, Oklahoma, who graduated in 1925. He was followed by James Carter Dooley from Brewton, Alabama, and was Hope's first African American graduate. I have to apologize, but I was not able to secure a definitive answer about the name of Hope's first Latina graduate. But I say with appreciation, that person laid the groundwork for what is now our largest population of students of color on the Hope College campus. And I suppose some of you, with some effort, have made yourselves aware that Hope, like many other colleges and universities, made efforts to go south to recruit African American students to increase its diversity. While there are certainly some success stories from that initiative, there are also too many sad stories of the hardships those students faced and the reality that for many of them, graduating from Hope was more about surviving than it was about the experience of thriving that the college genuinely seeks to provide for every student. 40 years ago, Hope College made its original commitment to an Office of Diversity and Inclusion. It is my understanding that at that time it was called the Office of Multicultural Life and Student Affairs. The office was led by a legend in the history of diversity at Hope College, and his contributions to the students, faculty, and staff of Hope College and the Greater Holland community. Officially, he retired at the end of the 2014-15 school year, but his retirement has been a lot like my own theoretical retirement. He is regularly called on to help with critical tasks at Hope, is a regular at the archives, and is always ready to lend a hand to any and all things Hope. At this time, I would like to ask Alfredo Gonzalez to please stand, and I ask you to join me in showing our appreciation for a person who has long been the heartbeat of Hope College's diversity initiatives. I know you're here. Thank you so much. During his tenure at Hope, Alfredo served as the director of Upward Bound, the director of Multicultural Life and Student Affairs, advisor to the Black Coalition and Hispanic Student Organization, as associate provost, and as the godfather of many of our international partnerships throughout Asia, Africa, and Mexico. Alfredo is truly a special man, and I'm sure I can never even begin to repay him for the things he has done on my behalf at Hope College. And recognizing that the heart is nothing without the soul, I next ask you to please join me in recognizing and expressing our appreciation for the soul of our diversity initiatives here at Hope College, Provost Emeritus Dr. Jacob Jack Nienhuis. Please stand. He supported Alfredo's work. He supported me in everything I worked to do, and I can never thank him enough. I don't know if any of them are here today, and sadly, obviously, some are not, but I also ask you to join me in recognizing and thanking the 4 presidents who preceded our current president for the foundation and support they provided in establishing and implementing a vision for what it means to support diversity in a Christian liberal arts setting. Those 4 are John Jacobson, who of course is not with us, Jim Boltman, Dennis Bosco, and also John Knapp. I don't know if Jim or Dennis are here with us. If by chance you are, please stand, and if not, I ask you to still join me in a round of applause for them. I have to begin this part of the story with President John Jacobson. He was the president who hired me, and he was the president who was clearly determined to make his mark on diversity at Hope College, his legacy. Presidents live in an unusual environment. They have to ensure the stability and overall health of the college, while also facing often competing pressures between the faculty, staff, and students, who, by the way, don't always share the exact concerns, and what the Board of Trustees is willing to support. In his final year, President Jacobson planted his flag in the ground on the importance of diversity at Hope College, and he would not be deterred. He formed a task force chaired by board member George Zeidema and Jack Nienhuis to develop and implement a comprehensive plan to increase minority participation at Hope College. I was blessed with the opportunity to serve on that task force. The task force had representation from all across the college and community. For several months, it worked intensely on developing plans and programs to increase minority participation at all levels across the institution: student, faculty, staff, and program. In the end, we came up with, and the Board of Trustees adopted, a 30-point plan for increasing minority participation at Hope College. It would be simple to say, and they all lived happily ever after. But that, of course, wouldn't be true. Diversity work is hard, and some level of resistance is guaranteed. Thanks to the continued support of President Jim Boltman, President John Knapp, President Dennis Voskuil, Hope was able to continue to make progress on its diversity goals. Let me also say thanks to my friend, Dr. Richard Frost, whose knowledge and understanding of diversity has often been critical in helping Hope move forward with its diversity initiatives. And certainly, let me recognize and give thanks for Dr. Sonia Trent Brown, our Vice President for Diversity and Inclusive Excellence. Please join me in appreciation for those individuals. Thank you. Oh, come on now, you gotta stand up. Even though they know who you are, you gotta at least stand up and give a bow, okay? Please don't let me leave the impression that any of this has been easy. There are always issues to be resolved over who reports to who controls budgets, and who best understands students' needs and most has their interest at heart. And honestly, there are on occasion disagreements around whose office can best service student needs. These are all realities in the operation of college programs. Nonetheless, the diversity initiatives have persevered, and we moved forward. And let me say this, the diversity initiatives of Hope College have never been stronger than they have become under the leadership of our current president, Matt Scogan. Would you please stand and allow us to grant our appreciation for your efforts. He has shown appreciation for diversity and incredible leadership, and has provided us across a full array of critical diversity issues the leadership that is necessary. He has refused to walk away from our responsibilities as the fire has gotten hotter on diversity initiatives all across the country in both the world of education and the business world. Thank you. In my mind, in the time that I have been at Hope College, the single most important Hope College initiative on diversity has, without question, been the Phelps Scholars Program. Launched as an outgrowth of the 30-point plan for increasing minority participation at Hope College and integrated with the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, it has changed the course of history for students at Hope College. I want to take a moment to ask you to join me in recognizing and thanking the 3 directors of that program we have had. And I do suspect that they're all here. Not positive. First, I ask you to join me in thanking the founding director of the Phelps Scholars Program, who served in that capacity for 14 years, Dr. Charles Chuck Green. I know I saw you. You gotta stand up. Thank you. Alrighty. Without challenge, he truly is the godfather of the Phelps Scholars Program. Next, I ask you to join me in thanking the second director of the Phelps Scholars Program, the incomparable Yoli Vega, who I believe served as a director for 5 years. Did you make it, Yoli? I know you were intending to. Anybody see her? In back? Come on, you got to stand up if you're back there. Can't be shy, okay? Finally, I ask you to join me in thanking the current Phelps Scholars Director, Mr. Casey Stevens, and his long-serving Phelps Scholars Assistant, Mr. Michael Brown. If you're here, stand up, folks. Come on. I would be remiss if I failed to congratulate and thank previous directors of our Office of Diversity and Inclusion, which, as noted, has in the past been known by a variety of other names. In their role as previous directors of the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, Alfredo Gonzalez, Yoli Vega, D. Wesley Poithers, and Glenda Rawls all made major contributions to the development of HOPE's diversity initiatives. Vanessa Green, director of HOPE's Office of Diversity and Inclusion for 11 years, will always stand out in my mind as someone who came and, most importantly, stayed through thick and thin to help HOPE grow its role as a leader in diversity initiatives in higher education. And I'm not trying to wear out your hands, but would you please give a round of applause for Vanessa? Okay. Finally, I ask you to join me in sharing our appreciation for the current director of the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, Mr. Javon Willis, its assistant director, Margot Walters, and its program director, Polly Korn. Please, there you go. Thank you. Together, this leadership group has taken the Hope College Office of Diversity and Inclusion to new heights, and it has been honored as a program of excellence among colleges and universities. There is no question that our Office of Diversity and Inclusion has never been so highly respected and supported as it is at this time, and it just keeps getting better. There will always be work to do, but I can say with confidence that our Office of Diversity and Inclusion has absolutely never been better, and the future has never been brighter for that office. I close with some final thoughts about two key issues that I hope you will take with you and remember. First, I offer a word of caution to our leaders of diversity initiatives at all levels of Hope College. We are living in challenging times, and diversity programs are being ripped apart all across our nation. This is not the time to cower and back down. This is, more than ever, a time to stand up and fight for what we are called to do as a Christian college. This is also the time to remember that as we continue to grow our diversity and commit ourselves to the responsibilities of truly living out our faith, we must realize that the job will not get easier. Indeed, it is assured that it will get more difficult. As diversity truly becomes at the heart of the fabric of Hope College, expectations will continue to rise among those who are new to this environment. The fact that we are appreciative of the opportunities afforded us doesn't mean that we are so appreciative that we will lower our expectations of our right to receive the same full blessings of the Hope experience that others have long enjoyed. Thank you for all that you have done. I anxiously await the continuation of the developing story of diversity at Hope College. And by all means, let me say that the vision of the Hope Forward program is one that offers hope and opportunity for all students who seek the blessings of the Hope College experience. I want to send you off with some thoughts about leadership and where you should look for it. Nearly all of us tend to be guilty of looking for superheroes who will come and save the day, and often save us from ourselves. While I have never been one to appreciate the concept of superheroes, I confess that I too am sometimes guilty of that kind of thinking. For over 55 years, I have lamented the sense of loss of having someone to speak for me at the national and international level. Once Dr. King was taken from us, I often found myself feeling voiceless, even though I could clearly still speak. Ironically, though, I've often felt that I have no one to speak for me. I have been consistently clear about who doesn't speak for me. I can unequivocally say that Clarence Thomas does not speak for me. I can, with equal clarity, say that the Reverend Al Sharpton does not speak for me. Benjamin Crump does not speak for me, and I haven't found any real comfort in Senator Tim Scott speaking for me. Those are just a few of the examples. But none of that matters. None of that answers the question of who does, or at least can, in my mind, speak for me. Then I realized that I, too, am often guilty of looking in the wrong place to find someone who speaks for me. In truth, it is extremely rare that someone at the national level is ever going to truly speak for you or me. They are simply too far removed from our daily life. There are really only two places I or you should be looking to represent our voice. First, we need to look at the local leaders and friends we have who are actually working on the ground and genuinely understand our needs. If I need someone to speak on my behalf about education, I'm totally comfortable calling on Henry and Lindsay Cherry. Are you here by any chance? Okay. They do tremendous work in the community. If I need someone to speak on behalf of my concerns about addressing the needs of those with special needs, I can easily walk down the halls of my own department and ask Sue Cherub, Jane Finn, Elizabeth Horton, and others to speak on my behalf. If I need someone to speak on my behalf about my concerns about immigration, Alfredo Gonzalez and a host of others that I consider my friends can speak on my behalf. If I need someone to speak on my behalf about issues of race and ethnic diversity, Fred Johnson, Chuck Green, and several others can speak on my behalf anytime they want to. More importantly, though, than finding anyone to speak for me, I want to encourage each of you here today to always begin to find who speaks for you by looking in the mirror. We basically all have voices in one form or another. Michael Jackson was right. We need to start finding and speaking our voices by looking at the man or woman in the mirror. When you see wrong and injustice, don't wait for someone else to call it out. Challenge it and speak your own truth to the situation. My favorite quote of all time of Martin Luther King Jr. is that if a man hasn't found something worth dying for, he isn't fit to live. Let that one sit for a minute, okay? In spite of all the concerns I have expressed to you today about the problems we face in our society, I want you to know that I leave you today with a genuine sense of hope in my heart. Yes, there is a lot of hate in our society and throughout the world today, yet I am hopeful. If you ask me why, I will tell you that I'm absolutely convinced that there are far more good and caring people in our society today than there are those who make all the noise and want to be in control of everything. How do I know this? Because I see it and experience every day in my own community, on and off campus, and as I travel across the country. With rare exception, the people I interact with on a daily basis have never been more kind and gracious than they are right now. Despite all the noise that I hear in the media, people of a wide range of races, religions, and yes, even sexual orientations are very positive in their interactions with me and with others. So I leave you encouraging you to both have hope and to accept and welcome your responsibility to spread hope in all we do. That's who we are at Hope College. That is what we do. And that is our call to duty. Thank you for your attendance and for your patience. I wish you a warm and celebratory remainder of the day. Go Hope. Thank you very much. Now I'll take my place.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's what you call a mic drop moment that you just experienced. If you are both encouraged, challenged, and ready to move, I don't know what else can move you. And so, Thank you. Thank you. So humble. Please give him another round of applause. My name is Javon Willis, and I serve as the director for our Center for Diversity and Inclusion. And I just want to limit my remarks because I need to let this space breathe. It is such an honor and a privilege to be able to be in this space. And as we are finally kicking off this 40 years of celebrating and thinking about what it means to belong and grow together as a diverse community, I am so grateful for those who have served before me, and I'm so grateful for what I would call the harvest moment that I sit in. And when I think about the challenges and the resistance and the difficulties that are been part of this landscape, I honestly and kind of very lightheartedly would say, as I even look at my current president, Matt Scogan, it's good to be able to say, I got 99 problems, but my president, he ain't one. And then the kinds of conditions that allow for us to strengthen our efforts for greater inclusion, greater opportunity, and greater access to this amazing community that we call Hope College. And it's with that gratitude that I stand here and am so excited as I think about all of our future diversity lectures that are being planned for the rest of this year, the opportunities for reflection, encouragement, and truth-telling as we look to the future. So thank you for the gift of your presence in this space. And thank you for all the ways that you serve this amazing campus community. So I would love to invite you to join us at Campus Ministries for a reception and an opportunity to be able to thank John personally for his remarks. And also just to thank God, right, for, as I think about the dreamers, it is without doubt that I know that in my personhood, by occupying this space, I am not only the dream, but I'm living the dream. And so Dean Gonzalez, yeah, we're still here. We're still here, and God is good. So I'd like to invite Crystal Wright to the stage, and she's going to lead us in a song as we leave this space. And go in peace. Thank you.
In preparation, we are going to process out this middle and make our way up to Campus Ministry House. I'm going to begin the song and ask that you join me when you feel so led to do so. Just a heads up, I will eventually be off the mic, but we will continue together, better together, as we say in my church, to walk, to sing, to celebrate, to dream, to hope, to carry one another into the next, wherever that may be for you. and us together. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. And let us go. We are not alone. We are not alone. We are not alone today. Deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We shall overcome. We shall